They say you never really know the people you work with, not until you pick up the wrong call at the wrong time. For me, it was a Wednesday. Nothing special. Just coffee gone cold on my desk, a spreadsheet I'd been staring at for too long, and a voicemail blinking red on the office phone. It was from a client, a guy named Perry who sounded nervous. He said, "Hey, I just wanted to confirm, was it you who accessed our account from Mexico this morning?" I froze. See, our company issues laptops that are tracked and encrypted. I hadn't been to Mexico. In fact, the only laptop linked to that client account was the one assigned to my coworker, Zach. And Zach was on vacation. Now, Zach was the kind of guy who made bare minimum look like a lifestyle brand. He talked fast, dressed sharp, and somehow made laziness look like charm. The kind of person who'd ask for help 5 times a day and still call himself efficient. I'd covered for him before. Reports, late tickets, even a small server mix-up that could have cost us a contract. I did it because I thought we were a team. Because he'd look at me with that easy grin and say, "You're the only one I trust with this stuff, man." That line used to mean something, so when Perry said Mexico, my stomach turned cold. I opened the admin panel, checked the last access log. There it was. A login from a foreign IP, the company laptop's unique tag right next to it. Zach's laptop. At first I thought maybe he took it on the trip. Against policy, sure, but he'd done dumber things. Then I noticed something worse. The device was no longer listed under our internal inventory. It had been deactivated 3 days ago. By me. Or rather, by someone using my credentials. That's when I realized it wasn't just a mistake. Someone had gone into the system and removed the laptop record under my name. On paper, I was the one who'd done it. I called HR. No answer. I called our manager, Nicole. She said Zach had already checked in from remote, so everything was fine. But I could hear it in her tone. That pause. The kind that means, you're about to be the problem. That night, I didn't sleep. I kept replaying every small favor, every time I'd stayed late while Zach joked about getting drinks to celebrate the grind. He never stayed late. He never even looked tired. Meanwhile, my inbox was filling with system alerts from our clients. Security flags, access discrepancies, and one chilling message from IT compliance. Unauthorized export detected. Immediate report required. I knew what that meant. Sensitive data, potentially client credentials, had been accessed from a blacklisted IP. And since it came from a laptop tied to my authorization key, the spotlight was already moving toward me. By morning, the office felt smaller, colder. People didn't look at me. They looked around me. Zach wasn't there. His desk was empty, a coffee ring on a post-it note that said, "Out of office till the 21st, living the dream." That little drawing of a palm tree made my blood hum. Around noon, Nicole called me into the meeting room. The blinds were half closed, her laptop already open to an internal report. She didn't waste time. "I have to ask," she said. "Did you remove Zach's device from inventory?" "No," I answered. "I didn't even have access to—" She turned the screen toward me. There it was. My login timestamped, matching the exact hour the record vanished. It was me, digitally speaking, and there was no way to prove otherwise. Not yet. "I didn't do this," I said. Nicole sighed. Not angry, tired. "You know how serious this is, right?" I nodded. I did. But she wasn't talking about the data anymore. She was talking about trust, the one currency no one gets a second chance at in IT. When the meeting ended, she said we'd pause my access while they reviewed the logs. In corporate language, that means you're already on the firing line. They just haven't told you to hand over your badge yet. I sat at my desk, staring at Zach's empty chair. The guy who'd once said, "You keep the lights on, man." Now he was somewhere on a beach, using the company's hardware to fund his escape, and my name was written all over the crime. I opened Slack, scrolled through our old chats. Buried between memes and ticket numbers was the last thing he'd sent before disappearing. "Don't let the place burn down without me." I remember typing back, half joking, "I'll keep it standing." But that line hit different now, because I wasn't just keeping the company standing. I was holding up the lie that was about to crush me. And then my phone rang again. Same client, same shaky voice. "Hey, just checking, are you aware that someone just tried to reset the root password on your admin server?" That's when I knew. Zach hadn't just sold the laptop, he was selling us. When I hung up that second call, my hands were shaking. Not from fear, but from something heavier. The kind of anger that doesn't shout. It just sits there, quiet, like a wire pulled too tight. I went straight to IT compliance. I still had my building pass. For now. The woman there, Meredith, didn't even look up when I knocked. She was typing fast, the way people type when they're already on your case. "I know why you're here," she said. "That's convenient," I answered. She turned her monitor slightly. "We traced the unauthorized access. It originated from your credential chain." "I'm aware," I said. "It wasn't me." She gave the smallest, most corporate smile I've ever seen. "That's not for me to decide." She printed a report, lines of IPs, timestamps, transfer logs, and slid it across the desk. I recognized one of them instantly. It matched a remote maintenance key I'd created 6 months ago, one Zach had borrowed, just for a day when he was troubleshooting a vendor connection. He'd kept it. That realization hit me in the chest. I'd been stupid enough to trust him with root access. Meredith was still talking. "We've suspended your credentials. HR will follow up about an internal audit. Until that's complete, please avoid contact with any client systems." That phrase, "avoid contact," might as well have been a muzzle. They'd already decided I was the leak. I walked back to my desk. My monitor was black. Access revoked. Phone service cut off. The silence felt staged. Everyone around me was pretending not to notice. Zach's desk was still empty. The chair turned slightly to the side, like he'd just stepped away for a moment. There was a single sticky note on his keyboard. "Back soon." I almost laughed. By noon, word had spread. The same people who'd once asked me for help with every minor issue now avoided eye contact. Lunch in the break room felt like a courtroom. Around 1 p.m., HR called me in. 2 people this time, Nicole, my manager, and someone from corporate. They had that official tone people use when they're pretending not to judge. "Ethan," Nicole started, "we're not accusing you. But until we understand what happened, we need to secure all your access points." "I didn't touch that laptop," I said, calm but direct. "Zach took it. The HR rep interrupted. "Zach's been unreachable since last week. His emergency contact says he's traveling abroad. You understand how that looks?" "Yeah," I said, "like the guy who sold company property is sipping margaritas on my credentials." They didn't smile. They never do when they're halfway convinced you're lying. Nicole leaned forward. "Look, if there's something you're not telling us—" "There isn't," I cut in. "But I'll tell you something you're not hearing. Zach's been freelancing under the table. He's probably using that laptop to move client data for cash. Check his cloud history, his side accounts, anything tied to the hardware ID." HR scribbled a note, probably to make me feel heard, but the look in her eyes said it all. They'd already made the narrative. The quiet guy cracked. After the meeting, I sat in my car in the parking lot for an hour. No music, no calls, just me and the hum of the engine. Every piece of my professional life was now one step away from collapse, because I'd trusted someone too easy to like. By that evening, the company had sent out an internal communication about a data breach under investigation. They didn't use names, but everyone knew. My inbox was flooded with one-line messages from coworkers. "Hey, you okay? Heard rumors. Hang in there." "Did you really—" I stopped reading after that one. At home, I poured myself a glass of water and stared at my laptop, the one they hadn't taken yet. I still had access to one thing, the network backups. Not official access, but enough from my local machine. I pulled the logs, traced the metadata, and there it was. A trail of access requests from an IP in Playa del Carmen. A few of them routed through a VPN, but one slip-up, one lazy connection, exposed the raw address. I matched it to a Facebook location tag Zach's girlfriend had posted 2 days earlier. Living our best life. Vacay mode ach freedom. The irony was almost poetic, so I did what any rational, furious IT guy would do. I started collecting everything. Screenshots, logs, access keys, a paper trail that, if needed, could crush a man's career without me raising my voice once. By midnight, I had enough to prove one thing. Zach didn't just take the laptop. He'd copied several client archives onto it, and one of them included a private prototype project for a company under NDA. A data leak of that scale could bury us all. I sent the evidence to Nicole anonymously. No signature, no trace. Just the files, neatly labeled and timestamped. Then I waited. The next morning, my badge didn't work. Security escorted me out. "Standard protocol," they said. Sure. I drove home with a calm I didn't recognize, the kind that comes after you've already lost what mattered. 3 days later, I got a call. Private number. When I answered, it wasn't HR. It wasn't Nicole. It was Zach. "Bro," he started, laughing like this was all some joke. "You wouldn't believe what just happened. Someone froze my PayPal, man. All my accounts. Even the crypto wallet. You wouldn't know anything about that, right?" I didn't say a word, just listened. "I'm serious, dude," he went on. "They said something about flag transactions from company assets. Look, I don't know what's going on, but..." Click. I hung up. Then I smiled. Not wide, not dramatic, just small. Because for the first time since that voicemail, I wasn't the one being watched. The company had launched a full audit. Zach was about to learn what compliance review really meant. But that was just the beginning. There's a moment, right after you lose everything, when fear turns into clarity. It's like your brain finally stops begging the world to be fair and starts treating it like math. Input, output, cause, effect. That's where I was when Zach called. After I hung up, I sat in the dark, staring at the blue glow of my second monitor, the one I'd kept disconnected from the company network. Personal system, clean drive, quiet witness. If the company was going to treat me like the villain, fine. Then I'd give them a real one to catch. First, I needed to know exactly how deep Zach had buried me. So I did what I do best. I followed the data. He'd tried to cover his tracks, but not well. Zach always had a weakness for shortcuts. He'd rather look clever than be careful. He used his old credentials to route stolen files through a dummy FTP he'd built on a cheap hosting service. It took me 15 minutes to find it. What he didn't know was that every time he accessed those files, the metadata updated with his device ID. And his phone, his real phone, had synced to the same cloud backup. So there it was. Proof. He'd moved confidential prototypes, source code, and customer credentials, all from the same machine he'd pawned off to pay for his dream vacation. But here's the thing about IT. You can't just expose someone. You have to time it. If you hit too early, it looks like revenge. If you wait long enough, it looks like evidence. So I waited. 2 days later, the internal memo went out. Due to unresolved compliance issues, all external contractor accounts are under review. Translation, they'd frozen Zach. I wasn't reinstated, but I didn't care. Because while HR was busy tracing invoices, I was writing my own kind of confession, a digital one. I compiled a file, every access log, every bank transaction that linked to his IP, every timestamp trace that proved what he'd done. Then I attached it to an anonymous tip directed to the company's external audit team. Not to HR, not to Nicole, directly to the lawyers. I titled it, "If you want the truth, follow the metadata." Then I sat back and watched. By the end of that week, everything started to shake. The internal Slack channels went quiet. The gossip stopped. Nicole's tone in her forwarded company emails shifted from cold to clinical, the way people sound when they realize they backed the wrong side. Zach, on the other hand, was still abroad. posting filtered sunsets and poolside selfies. But underneath his perfect little vacation bubble, the trap was closing. Because I hadn't just sent the audit files. I'd copied the report to the company's biggest client, the one whose data he'd leaked. It was a risk, sure, maybe even reckless. But when you're already accused of something you didn't do, reckless stops sounding scary. I didn't sign it, but I didn't hide it well either. Part of me wanted them to know it came from me. 3 days later, the dominoes fell. The client suspended all active contracts. The board demanded an emergency internal review, and Zach's name, finally, publicly, appeared in a compliance bulletin. Former employee under investigation for breach of data security. I remember reading that line 3 times, not smiling, just breathing. That night, I poured myself a drink, first one in weeks, and sat on my porch, listening now to the hum of distant traffic. I didn't feel vindicated. Not yet, just clean. Then my phone buzzed again, unknown number. I answered, expecting silence. Instead, it was him. Zach. Again. His voice was different this time, thinner, scared. Ethan, man. What did you do? I said nothing. They froze my accounts. The audit's all over me. They're saying there's client stuff on the drive. How? I deleted everything. You didn't, I said quietly. Metadata doesn't care about delete buttons. He exhaled hard, panicking. Look, I didn't mean for you to get dragged into this. I just needed money. You get that, right? You always helped me out. You were the smart one, the stable one. Stop, I said. Don't make this about admiration. You stole from people who trusted you. You dragged me into it. You lied. Bro, please. They're threatening legal action. They want my passport. Then maybe, I said, you should have stayed home. I hung up, and for the first time since that Wednesday, I slept. Not deep, but clean. No guilt, no noise. The next morning, the company called me in. Different tone this time. Nicole's eyes looked tired, but softer. We received additional evidence. It seems you were compromised. I told you that, I said. She nodded. I know. We're reinstating your access temporarily. Legal wants a statement. I didn't say I told you so. Didn't need to. Instead, I handed her a printed copy of the report, the one I'd already sent. No signature. Just one last note at the bottom. Integrity doesn't need an audience. She read it twice before looking up. Did you write this? I met her eyes. Would it matter if I did? She didn't answer. Later that afternoon, I walked through the office, past the same people who'd whispered 2 weeks ago. The silence was different now. Respectful. Uneasy. I sat at my desk, logged in, and for a second, everything was back to normal. Almost. Then an email popped up. Subject line, Investigation Update Confidential. I clicked it. We've confirmed fraudulent sale of company property and unauthorized export of data by former employee Zach K. Authorities have been notified. Thank you for your cooperation. No apology, no explanation, just closure. I leaned back in my chair, exhaled slowly, and looked at the empty space where his desk used to be. That night, I deleted every backup, every copy, every file, not out of anger, out of principle. Because sometimes revenge isn't about hurting someone back. It's about removing them from the part of your life where they ever existed. That night, I stopped being the nice guy. They reinstated me the following Monday. No fanfare, no apology. Just a silent email from HR titled Access Restored. That's how companies say sorry, by pretending nothing happened. When I walked into the office, people looked at me differently. No smiles, no jokes, just that careful, watchful respect you give someone who's been burned, but didn't break. Even Nicole avoided my eyes, like she wasn't sure which version of me had come back, the quiet team player or the ghost who'd burned down a lie. I sat down at my desk. It was exactly as I'd left it. Empty coffee cup, cold keyboard, but something had shifted. The hum of the servers in the next room didn't sound like background noise anymore. It sounded like breathing. My breathing. I wasn't angry. I wasn't proud either. Just done pretending that being the good guy was protection. Around noon, Nicole stopped by. "You're cleared," she said quietly. "The board knows you didn't do it. The client's reinstating the contract." Then after a pause, "They also know you sent the logs." I looked up. "And?" She hesitated, searching for a tone that didn't exist. "They're grateful, but next time, go through proper channels." "There won't be a next time," I said. She nodded and walked away. That was the last real conversation we had. 2 weeks later, Zach's name made the news. Former IT employee, charged with corporate data theft and fraud. The photo wasn't flattering. Sunburned, unshaven, eyes hollow. He looked like someone who'd finally realized that actions, no matter how clever, have invoices. I didn't gloat, didn't post, didn't celebrate. I just closed the tab and went back to work. Life after betrayal isn't cinematic. There's no slow clap, no speech, no moment of redemption. It's quieter. You just stop checking your back every 5 minutes. You start drinking coffee without feeling like it might be your last cup before HR calls again. I rebuilt my routines, morning runs, no more skipped lunches. I talked less, listened more, not out of fear, out of choice. Silence had become my kind of armor. One Friday evening, as I was shutting down my system, I noticed something. Zach's name still existed in one place, a forgotten shared folder, buried deep in the project archive. His old username, grayed out, marked inactive. I hovered over it for a second. Then I hit delete. It wasn't satisfaction. It was balance. A week later, Nicole resigned. Corporate politics. "A new opportunity," she said. The department reshuffled. Some people called it fallout. I called it cleansing. They offered me her position a month after that. I said yes, not because I wanted the title, but because I'd earned the silence that comes with authority. Now, every time someone joins the company, I tell them one thing. Integrity isn't about doing the right thing when people are watching. It's about still doing it when they're not, and when no one's going to thank you for it. Most nod politely. Some don't get it. But the ones who do, those are the people I keep close. Sometimes, when the office is empty and the lights hum low, I think back to that voicemail, the one that started it all. "Hey, was it you who accessed our account from Mexico?" I used to hate that message. Now I keep a copy of it, not as a reminder of betrayal, but of clarity. Because that was the moment I stopped waiting for fairness and started becoming the kind of man who makes it. They thought I was gone. I wasn't. I just stopped asking for permission to stay.